What's up, guys? This is Retro Jojo here to talk about some games that I found interesting growing up, and I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, give me a like and let me know what you think of it. So first is WCW versus NWO Revenge. Very good game. I had a lot of fun playing it growing up with my brother and my cousin. It has a lot of customization where you can customize the characters. You can do the Royal Rumble. You have multiplayer. You have single player, tag team matches, things like that. Very good wrestling game, and was very fun. Like I said, growing up. And you have all your iconic wrestlers, Sting and Hollywood Hogan, Hulk Hogan, Raven, and characters like that, characters that I love in wrestling. Next up is Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. This game was very fun as I was growing up and got older, and it follows the events of after Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace and leads up into Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. Has a generic character that's under the influence of Count Dooku that tries to use hex weapons against other planets of the galaxy to gain control, and it leads into the Battle of Geonosis. So very great game, and you play as Adigalia and Nim and Reddy. So very good game. And next is Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. This game blew me away when I first played it. It was a graphical upgrade from, you have the 64 game, which is the first one, which is a classic. Then you have the GameCube one, and there's three on the GameCube, or two on the GameCube, excuse me. There's three altogether. But overall, it was a fantastic game, and it follows the events of the original trilogy for Star Wars. So very good game, and it has, you play as the Rebels, and you can unlock different ships and play, use iconic ships like the Millennium Falcon, the Slave One. You have actually a car that you can use as a ship that's unlockable later. So it's a very great game, and it has missions that tie into the original trilogy as well that aren't in the movies. So very great game. If you're a Star Wars fan like me and you love Star Wars, you have to play it. And then we have Deadpool for the PS4. This game was a later pickup after I got the PS4. I love the game. It follows more of Wade Wilson's the comic books more than in that sense of Deadpool, more than it does the Ryan Reynolds storyline. In fact, it doesn't follow the Ryan Reynolds storyline really at all. But you can see some similarities between the two. And there's a lot of gore, not a kid's game. Deadpool can teleport, he can use different weapons, and you can upgrade those weapons, and then at the end you fight Sinister, which he's not in the movies, not yet at least. Maybe we'll see him eventually, who knows. And next is Afro Samurai. This game is a beautiful game. I believe it's loosely based, I could be wrong, but I believe it's loosely based on the anime or animated show of the same name, which stars Samuel Jackson, which he's in Star Wars as well. He's Mace Windu. So to see him in a game that's to this volume of gore, again, it's not a kid's game, but it's a very beautifully realized video game. It has a great storyline. It does have, quite a bit of coarse language, but you get that with any, just about any M-rated title. So you know what you're getting into before you play it. That's why they put ratings on video games in the first place. That's why we have the ESRB to distinguish what games are what. So and it has a slowdown, like split like time where you can slow time down and attack your enemies in that way once you get the meter full. Very good game. You can chain combos together. You can just obliterate enemies in this game. Love the game. Great characters, great story. I have not finished it. Had some problems with my PS3 that I still own, and it's just a great game. Hope to finish it real soon. Next up is Perfect Dark on the N64. I had never played this game up until a couple years ago. A friend of mine, he introduced me to it, and it is just a beautiful game. You play as Joanna Dark, and it has a lot of similarities between GoldenEye, because GoldenEye was made by the same company, Rareware, who made some of the best games on the 64. I mean, they made tons of great games, and even before that with the Super Nintendo. It required the expansion pack for the N64 to be able to run the dang thing. And you have aliens in the game that later you're like, whoa, where did that come from? You don't see it coming, and then it's like, whoa, there's these aliens called Scatter, and then there's this other alien that you just met, and after you've fought through a bunch of other levels, and it's a great game. And great couch co-op too. If you have friends over, you have a 64 expansion pack, pop it in, man. It is a lot of fun with friends. So great game. And then next is Mad World. I was recommended this game by a friend of mine, another friend of mine actually, who I went to church with, grew up with for many years, and it's another, M-rated title. I meant to mention that Perfect Dark's also a game like that, but it's not as gory due to the graphical limitations of the 64. If you play them nowadays, and then you compare them to something like Mad World, or even other games that I don't have in front of me right now, like Fallout 4 or Borderlands or things like that, if you compare them to that, they're not that gory. So I just thought I should mention that. But getting back to Mad World follows this, I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but I believe he's actually voiced by the guy who did the voice for the narrator for Toonami back in the day. So he's very good at the voice. It gives it kind of there's a little bit of charismatic character to this guy. He's very charismatic. He's very cocky, and you fight through this. It's like you're on this island on this TV show, and you're fighting through waves and waves of enemies. And what makes this game stand out is that every enemy can be taken down in different ways. But not only that, you also have the black and white. So it's all in black and white. And even with the Wii, if you go back and play it now, it is beautifully realized with stunning graphics. To me, personally, some people don't like the older games. I'm a retro kind of guy. I like retro games a little bit more than I do the newer stuff. So everybody has their own thing. So that's enough about that. But next is Resident Evil, the Umbrella Chronicles. I love Resident Evil. And the thing about this game is there's a lot of, you're either on this side or you're on this side. You either like, Umbrella Chronicles and Dark Side Chronicles more of a rail shooter type of thing, which is what it is. It follows the events. The first one follows the events of Resident Evil 0, which I also have played. But I prefer the Umbrella Chronicles because I like rail shooters. I like shooters like Call of Duty, Star Wars Battlefront's another one that comes to mind. Even the reboots too. Just very good game. Those are very good games. And this is a very good game. It has health pickups, secrets you can pick up, weapons that you can pick up that you can use later, and you still have that strategy, idea where if you do pick it up and you use it and you need it later for a boss battle, guess what, buddy? You don't have it anymore. So there is a bit of strategy there. And there's also secret missions that you can unlock based on your ranking when you finish each mission. And you play as different characters that were in Resident Evil 0. Like I said, I'm more on the side of, I wish they would do something like that again. But again, you don't have much of that anymore. You have a lot of, it's either a bunch of explosions going off everywhere and it's a Call of Duty clone, to me personally, or you have more of the old school, like Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, even going to the GameCube of Resident Evil 0, or 4, because 4 is one of the greatest games of all time. So if you can get a copy and you still like retro games, I recommend going back and playing this one because it's worth it. I mean, even to me, playing it as Albert Wesker in and of itself is worth it. So next, I want to talk about one that I don't have a physical copy of. I wish I did, but it was a limited release. I believe it was. I think it was released by limited release. They do games that aren't typically on systems, but for that specific platform. And this game's on the Switch, and it's the House of the Dead, the remake. Now, I love the original. The original has a special place in my heart. Just popping them coins in there, man, and hearing the howl that comes through the speakers. I know of a spot that I know of that they still have one of the dang machines. And it's like, wow, this is like reliving my childhood right here. This is, prime gaming to me. But the graphics weren't all there because you had different, things that graphically limited it, and it was made by Sega. And the thing is, when you put the two side by side, they're exact replicas of one another. The only difference is the remake is just so beautiful on the Switch. It looks just top notch, fantastic. And if you know anything about the House of the Dead, I don't have to tell you that it's, gory or that but it's just a blast because it to me it looks a lot like Virtua Cop. If anybody remembers Virtua Cop, looks a lot like that game, but with gore. And then so it's a blast. And then if you get somebody playing with you, man, you'll have a blast playing this game. It's not that long of a game, but to me, it's worth it. It's worth it to play it. It's worth it to experience it for yourself. And there's different endings based on which paths you take. It gives you a choice to take different paths through the game. So you're going to want to go back and play it again a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time, or if you're like me, probably 6, 7, 8 more daggum times. But it's worth it to play through it and get all the true endings. And one of the endings I thought was really crazy is there's one where Sophie, who, if you know anything about the game, she gets taken down kind of in the beginning of the game. She's taken away, and then she gets sideswiped by the chariot guy. And when you fight him, she actually says you have to stop Kyrian or something terrible is going to happen. And then you think she's dead, and then later you realize she wasn't. So it's kind of like a was she, wasn't she kind of scenario. So I just thought that was interesting. It's a very good game, beautiful game, fun game, and not a very expensive game either, and well worth the pickup. If you have a Switch and you can, I highly recommend getting it for the Switch if you're a Switch kind of person. I like the Switch. I like playing it with family and friends and by myself. I have other games on it that are just really good games to me. So anyway, this is going to wrap it up, but we're going to talk about one of the greatest games of all time next, and that is GoldenEye 007. This game is very, very special to me. I actually have multiple copies of this game just because of how much my brother loved it when he was even quite younger than I am currently. And he loved it. He would have friends over. We would have like youth get-togethers at my parents' place, and we would just play it. And I would always I remember I would always try to get a little peek. It was almost like Mom pulled the curtain. You can't play that. That's too graphic and stuff. And now when you play it, it's like it looks a little blocky, but at the same time, it's a classic. You can't. It plays through the events of the 007 GoldenEye movie. And it has 2 secret missions at the end that you can go back, play the game on a higher difficulty. I believe it's the next difficulty after, I think it's operative. If you play it on agent, I think it is, you get those other 2 levels, as well as you can unlock like cheats and stuff and then you can play the missions with cheats, and you can play the multiplayer with the cheat codes as well that you unlock through playing the game. Very great game, and one of the best games that you can play also online. You can play it online now on Xbox Live Arcade. I believe it's live on there. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me. Don't destroy me in the comments if it's wrong. But I do believe that's right. You can play it live on Xbox Arcade, and then also you can play it on the Switch. If you have the expansion pack through Nintendo, you can play that game. And it's also, I want to mention this too, it's also been graphically upgraded on the Xbox. So if you have a 1S or anything like that, you can play it on there. I'm not sure if you can play it on the next gen as far as PS5, Xbox One X. So I don't know if you can play it on that, but I think as long as you have the platform, it doesn't matter if it's that system or the new one. And I could be incorrect about that, but it's a great game. One of my favorite games of all time. It holds a special place because of how much time that I spent playing the single player and multiplayer with my brother. It's just a great game overall. So, well, that about wraps up this first video. There will be more to come. Let me know if there's anything in the comments that I could do or things that you would like to see on this channel that maybe you're interested in. So let me know. Hope everybody's safe, and God bless.